Hey everybody, I'm back with another video. I didn't think I was gonna do one too soon, but well, if you could call it too soon, because it's been a while since I dropped the video. Um, you know, I usually do videos when I'm really led to do one or really compelled to do one. Like, I can't really put them out all the time when I want to or whatever. I have to, like, you know, really be in the mood for them or really, really be led to do them. So, I've been dealing with some grief. I had lost a childhood friend, of almost 30 years, and may she rest in heavenly peace. Um, Today is actually the 7th anniversary since her brother passed away. Her brother happens to be my daughter's father, so she was my dear childhood friend was an auntie to my baby. And my daughter looks so much like her. I always tell my daughter she looks so much like her auntie. But anyhow, enough with the small talk. I just needed to say something regarding the whole Israelite thing. While I, have my battles out and debates with the Gentiles, with people of the Gentile nation regarding my heritage and who we are as a people, there are those among Israel who I have to battle with more than even them. Because you have some Israelites who are walking around honestly believing that their nationality and who they are is a fairy tale, is a myth, which I do believe is a part of the many curses that our biblical text told us would take place. That's a part of the curse, being cut off from our heritage. But the prophecies did also say that we would start waking up. And, they want to, worship and, worship ancient Kemet and all these other African belief systems and cultures because they feel like it's better than Israel. Our people are very glamored. They like, the Egyptian culture and how beautiful it was, and the clothes that they wore, the hieroglyphics and things of what have you, when they don't even understand or realize that a lot of the things concerning Israelites have been kept hidden. Okay? Like, Shakespeare, for example. Shakespeare was an Israelite. Okay? They try to say that, King James was a European man who, and just spread lies on him too, but he was actually an Israelite as well. He was a black man. A lot of people don't know, but blacks, Israelites ruled Europe for 1,000 years, and you can, and there's proof of that in a book called Nature Knows No Color Line. So there's plenty of proof. And that's another thing that they always want you to show proof. And there's plenty of it out there, but the proof isn't good enough. So they'll sit there and tell you to, oh, well, show us their bones. Why haven't they dug up Adam and Abraham and all these people and stuff? And I'm like, and they'll show skeletal remains of ancient Egyptians, from tombs and things of that nature. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how do you know those aren't Hebrews you're looking at just because they're wearing Egyptian attire? Huh? How do you know? How do you know they're not Hebrews? You got to remember, we lived there at one point. I was telling this person that I got into this debate. I've been debating this with my own folks for several days now, in the process of grieving a friend. I'm not exactly in the mood for this, like, but I had to make this, clear this up a bit. When y'all ask us proof of these things, you don't understand the conspiracy against the Israelites. You just don't understand this. Our enemies, the Gentile nations, are not afraid of you following any other practices. They're not afraid of it. And this is what you don't see. You think they're scared that you follow Kemetic science? They're not afraid of that. You think they're afraid of when you follow the Orishas and the voodoo and all that? They're not intimidated by that. They're not intimidated by that. And then my people like to say, "Oh, the Bible is the white man's book," and all this type of stuff. I was like, okay, who do you think gave you Egyptology? If that's the case, our people didn't compile and put that together. White scholars did. White scholars supposedly encrypted what was on the hieroglyphics. But you trust that though, right? Yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, if you understood the conspiracy against our people, you would understand, even if they, did dig up Adam and Abraham, and which I do believe that I actually know that some of them have been found. They're not going to show you. They're giving you an alternative. They push every alternative in front of your face except the Israelites. Except the Israelites. What is your problem with this? Like, y'all want to sit there and call this the white man's religion. We were following Christ long before the so-called white man got his hands on these scrolls. Okay, we were following that. And then you got a lot of people, some of the people that live in like West Africa, North Africa, and Nigeria, a lot of our people made their way into those territories in 70 AD when Rome took Jerusalem. When Rome invaded our homeland, they remember Christ. Okay, this was several hundred years. I'd say a few hundred years after Christ ascended back into the heavens. Because you got to remember something. Christ was giving them a prophecy. He said, when you see, it's in the Bible, it says, when you see Rome, start walking into the streets of and into the streets of Jerusalem or into Israel, flee into the mountains. He said, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what he said. I would have to read it out of the book, and I don't exactly remember the Bible verse, but I remember he said something about when you start seeing them occupy our land in numbers, flee into the mountains, go. You better run. You better run. This is going to be like, I think I'm going to have to make more than one parts to this because I record this on my cell phone. So, yeah, I might have to do 2 more videos. But, yeah, Christ, told our people to flee into the mountains. And this was when he was walking the earth. And I say a few hundred years, maybe 300 to 500 years later, I would probably say maybe a little bit longer than that. Because this was 70 AD. So how long 70 AD was? Like, that was like a minute ago. Okay, when this started happening. They remembered that. And they left. Because, when they started, you had this guy, I'm trying to remember, Nero, this Roman general or this Roman emperor. They burned down one of their own places, one of their capital buildings in Rome, and blamed it on one of our people who were living over there. Because, Israelites were living in Rome and all that, what may have you. And we were blamed for something that they purposely did. It was a false flag operation. That's another thing. These Idumeans always operated under false flag operations. During the times of Adolf Hitler, they burnt down their own assembly or something like that and blamed the European Jewish people for it. Like, they always did false flag operations. This goes to show there's nothing new under the sun. They're masters of framing people for shit. Okay? So they started to occupy, when they went over there, they were investigating and then they were talking to our people or whatever, because at first when they went over there, There wasn't an all out war that broke out. And then it didn't happen yet, but they were occupying the streets. It was almost something like what looked like martial law, but it didn't go there just yet. I'll say this much. For our people who heeded Christ's warnings, they packed their shit up and left. They was like, okay, Christ spoke about this several hundred years ago, and look what's happening now. We got to go. Okay, and then whoever was left there, I'd say, like, as time started to go by a bit, then they started to close our people in the walls of Jerusalem. And what had happened was they couldn't come down. And when they tried to come down, they were killed with bow and arrows immediately. So they trapped us in a moat. They built a literal moat around the city of Jerusalem and had our people trapped in there. And they killed, and whatever people were left there, they were killed off. They killed off a lot of our people during the siege of 70 AD. A lot of our people in Jerusalem were killed. And when they, weren't slaughtered with a sword or a bow and arrow, they were being starved. They were being starved because they built a moat around them. It was so bad. Our women was eating their own children because they were starving. They were starving our people. I'm getting glimpses of what happened as I speak. I get glimpses of the past. I don't know how I have this ability, but I'm seeing it right now as it play as I speak. As I speak, I can see things, certain things play out from the past. I can see it in my mind's eye. I can see how it's playing out. God is giving me the vision of what happened there. Thank you, Father. He's been working very closely with me. I'm seeing this play out in what they did. I'm looking at it right now. Our people who, you cannot make this shit up. Okay. They sit there and say it's a fairy tale or whatever. And then, you got our people who live in Africa that are not Africans. They are from the tribes of Israel. And some of our brothers have traveled over to Africa and have spoken to our brothers and have told them who they are. Because they have lost the history of that too. They don't understand. They are the remnant that fled Jerusalem and heeded Christ's words. And the same people, they are the descendants of the people who fled. But what happened was they started dibbling and dabbling in the African pagan religions. And that's why God sent the Gentiles after them. So for people that live in South Africa, West Africa, Nigeria, and all them areas over there, y'all are from the remnant that fled the Roman persecution a little bit before it took place. Your ancestors, that remnant that came out of Jerusalem and fled into the mountains, y'all are following strange practices today. Y'all cry that Christ ain't real and all this and what have you. But because of the belief in Christ and because those prophecies that he set in stone, your ancestors, a remnant of your people, were able to make it out of that. And you are here because of those, them heeding those warnings to this day. And for y'all fallen this far to not believe and speak against your own heritage because it doesn't seem pretty enough or glamorous enough, you think you would understand how the enemy works and operates here. Satan is about vanity. He's going to try to give you anything that looks better, more grand, more rich in spirit than your own heritage. He knows what God has for you. His job is to keep you from it. Y'all want to debate all day about whether the Bible is real or not, and this and that and the third. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I really don't. You really don't. I don't know. How do we fall so far? I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you with something. My silly people This is why God said that his people are destroyed for a lack of are destroyed because they lack knowledge, because you don't research anything. You're destroyed. He said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge because they reject the truth. You rejected the truth. You keep rejecting the truth. So guess what? God is going to allow you to succumb to your delusions. He's going to send a delusion. He said that he will send you a strong delusion that you may continue to believe a lie. Okay, it's already been. Now I see why 2/3 are getting cut off. This is why I see only a remnant of our people going to make it through this, because you keep denying your inheritance. If you don't want your inheritance, then he's not going to keep giving it to you. He will raise a people out of his chosen, which he already has. He has already done that. He has already done that. And sorry, I keep pausing. I just need to get my thoughts together a bit. There's proof all around us. We just have to read between the lines. Okay? Like, Psalms 83 goes into the conspiracy against Israel and keeping who we are hidden. Around the time Psalms 83 was taking place, we had already fallen. We weren't in our land anymore. We weren't in the land that God promised us. We had fallen. They had destroyed us by then. We were scattered abroad by then. And we were, being taken captive all over the earth. Okay? By the time 78, by the time Psalms 83 prophecy started to unfold. Okay? We start, so they got together. The Gentile nations got together and was basically saying, what do we do with these people? What do we do about them? We can't afford them to wake up because we'll lose power. This is what this was always about. This is about power. Because when you control the true lands of the Israelites, you control the world. And they know this. They know there's power under that. And speaking of the Egyptians, because, everybody like to believe that the Egyptians are white or whatever may have you, or, Middle Eastern people, which that's a bold-faced lie. They were melanin black people. Okay? They were melanin people. They were black people. And the reason why they had to whitewash the history of the Egyptians was because if they didn't whitewash the history of the Egyptians, then the lie about who the real Jews are would have never been able to stick. Why? Because throughout the Bible, it is often told that Israelites were mistaken for Egyptians. We were mistaken for them. Okay, even I think a couple of the disciples were mistaken as Egyptians, if you read in the New Testament. So if you're walking around and you got these white looking people walking around saying they're Jews, and then they allow, the black Egyptian thing to stick, we would have known right away you're lying. This is why when you look at the movies of Egyptians, you always see white people playing them or what may have you. But when you look at the hieroglyphics, they look as black as me, though. They put stuff in your face. They put it in your face. They do. And they use the second book of Ezra to find America. But yet it's a fairy tale. They used they also had navigators here that spoke in Hebrew. That should tell you something. Why did they need? If we were Africans, why did they need a black man who spoke Hebrew to communicate with us when they came over here? But y'all don't know stuff like this. You're not, it's like y'all don't want to know the truth. If I set up a system where I don't want you to know who the hell you are, This is speaking to the people that want to sit there and say, oh, if Abraham and Moses and all of them were real, why don't they have their bones? Look, I can show you King Tut right now from a tomb. Okay, and? Okay, they display Egyptians in museums. I don't know why it's people are so proud of you displaying someone's corpse on there. To me, in a museum, to me that's very disrespectful. I find that very disrespectful to the dead. Let them rest. But how do you know, like I said before, how do you know some of those so-called Egyptians weren't Israelites? Because again, we were living in that land. That's the land that God freed us from. We were there for 250 years. We lived in ancient Kemet. We lived there. So, how do you know? How do you know you're not looking at an Israelite? Stop thinking that every Israelite was an Abraham or someone famous. Yes, they speak about these men because they stand out and they helped make who our people are. But there are other Israelites, millions of our people that walk the earth who were common folk. I mean, we were rich. We were always rich in the eyes of the Most High. But, their stories, of course, don't stand out like it would Moses or people that were sent here to help, like prophets and apostles and Queen Esther's and things of that nature. Like Queen Esther is one of the most highlighted Israelite queens in the book. You got to go to other places to look for the Israelite dynasties a lot of the time, to look up the Israelite queens, So they highlight a lot. And plus a lot of stuff they have hidden in the Vatican, of course. But like I was saying, if I'm doing a conspiracy against a particular group of people, I'm not going to sit there and show you proof. And I was being told by the Most High that, yes, they indeed have found quite a number of the famous biblical characters, of what y'all call biblical characters. Well, character is, a term of, telling you who a person, identifying a person, like, I'm a character, when they say that's a strange character right there walking down the street, So when I say character, I'm not saying it in a fictional way. They have found the biblical people. They have found the famous biblical people. They're hiding more than books in the Vatican. I'll tell you that much. That's what the Most High is telling me. They're hiding a lot more than books and artifacts. They are hiding people down there too. You want to talk about something being fake? A lot of the Roman stories you hear are fake. Like Plato and Socrates. They're fake. They didn't exist. A lot of their famous people that they want to put on a pedestal, a lot of those Romans and Grecian scholars and stuff and what may have you never existed. And on top of that, if you go to IUIC, they did a perfect breakdown on who the Edomites are, who Esau is. And it's even in their Jewish encyclopedias who they are. And they don't do it for us. They don't do it for everybody else. They do it to keep up with their own records, of who they are, whatever. There was a huge debate that took place in the early 1900s regarding, who they are and what may have you. There was a huge argument, and it was something they said where they said, you got to be quiet before you wake them up. I gotta find what was said in that video. But you ain't going to be sitting up here debating over something that supposedly is a fairy tale. You want to sit there and think that your own people and the history of who we are as Israelites is a fairy tale, when these Edomites out here know the truth. They know who we are and they know who they are. They know who they are. It's time for y'all to wake up, or just accept the fact that you will be the a part of the two-thirds that get cut off. Hey, it's no sweat off of my back. I know I have the seal. I know my family is sealed. If y'all want to continue to ride this train of saying that this is all a lie and this is a fake, and you want to sit there and exalt men with bird heads or men with the heads of jackals, and thinking that that's something we should follow. Okay, if you like it, I love it. I'm going to tell you right now, it won't get you far. I'm probably going to be back with another part to this video. More than likely, I will. So stay tuned.